Welcome back, reality-based athletes and coaches. Thank you so much for joining me for another video today. Before I get started, if you have not joined the assembly, these reality-based advocates that are joining together for this reality-based revolution, click the subscribe button below. We got great content coming bi-weekly as I go through the philosophy, giving you some tips to get that fast track to becoming, a better athlete and being happier out there as you play. Now today, big day today. We are talking about rule number 2 of reality-based athletics. The rule is suffering is completely optional, so ditch the drama. So if you're one of those athletes that seems to feel like you've been dealt a tough hand, you're not getting the playing time you want, or just really battling through each day and feeling like it's just getting tougher and tougher, this video is for you. I got some great tips in here about my realization that my suffering was completely optional and why ditching the drama is so effective as an athlete. So let's get right into it. So I talked before in the Troublesome Trends video about that pain point when things get tough and that feeling you get inside that, ooh, I'm a bit overwhelmed, whatever. That pain point is actually your call to greatness. So this kind of relates to that with your suffering is completely optional. And I want to illustrate that to you through a story. Now, when I was in high school, so basically age 14 to 18, I had a lot of suffering with this one person that would always kick me out of the gym when I was trying to work out. So I was, dedicated. I wanted to work out every day, whether it's before school or after school, get my workouts in, improve each day. And this one guy, he will remain nameless, but he would always just walk by the gym, see me, kick me out, and he would say something like, it's a big liability issue for you to be in the gym. If you were to fall and roll your ankle, the school could get sued. And I'm like, I would never sue the school. I'm in here by myself trying to get better. Seriously, what is that? He said, it's the rules. So he kicked me out. And after about 6-8 times of this, when I'm trying to, get better, improve on my game, I had just had it. I was suffering. I was frustrated. So, I was like walking around the halls. I went to my mentor and I go, oh my God, and I start to create this story about this guy, he's a wrestling coach. He doesn't want us to even get better. He doesn't want our program to be good. He doesn't want me to get into college and be, a good basketball player. And this is why kids are like doing drugs now because they can't get in the gym to work out. There's nowhere to get better. They're encouraging you to get over there and just play video games and sit on your butt. So I created this huge story and I went to my mentor and I said, I'm suffering. This guy is ruining my life. I can't get better. What should I do? And he said the weirdest thing, but it was actually a huge moment for me. He goes, no, Alex, the fact that you're getting kicked out of the gym is your reality. Why are you suffering? And I said, why am I suffering? Of course, because I am getting kicked out every time I try and work out and I can't get any better. And, because he kicks me out, I'm never going to achieve my dreams. And I'm not going to be able to get a scholarship. I'm not going to be able to improve. And so he's like, no. That's your reality that you get kicked out. Why are you suffering? And that's when it hit me. My suffering wasn't caused from me getting kicked out of the gym. My suffering was caused that I hadn't changed my sneaking into the gym practices for over 10 years. And what do I mean by that? My reality was I was getting kicked out. My suffering was caused because I was believing that story I made up, and basically I was not adapting to my reality. I was not figuring out what could I do, even though that's my reality, to still get better. Up until this point, I had never had someone separate out my reality from my suffering. They always seemed to be the same. When I was frustrated, I was thinking I'm frustrated because of all these things. So here's the big moment, and here's how realizing this can help you change and succeed anyway. Here's what happened. I then was like, what can I do to still get my workouts in with this reality that I have? I actually sat with it, thought about it for a second. First thing I did, I started taking little rocks at the school and I put them in the doorway right as I left after school, come back after I knew he was gone, and I would sneak in and then I'd get my hour workout in, from like 6:30 to 7:30. And then I got caught doing that, so I was like, what else can I do? So I started, actually the athletic director was wondering, how and why do you know all of the janitors so well? That was another strategy. I started to get to know the janitors because they stayed till like 9. So whenever they saw me come to the door, they'd let me in. I'd have a great conversation with them, tell them I'm just gonna work out, check in on me. And then I developed this relationship with the janitors. So then they would just like let me in and be excited to see me. And so as I walked around, the school, I was about the only one that always interacted with the janitors. And so then that was like my access point. So there's another thing I tried. Eventually, he kind of figured that out and he was like, this is a big issue. I typed up my own waiver form for insurance that I looked up on the internet, figured out if I sign this and say that if I get hurt, I will not sue the school, this is an official document. Can this work? And by that point, he was kind of like getting that I was going to do whatever it took to succeed anyway. And so then I realized my suffering again was caused because I had that story that he was just gonna ruin my life. But when I realized and found my happiness and started to succeed anyway was by looking at my reality, the fact that I was getting kicked out of the gym, adjusting my approach. So here we go. I think I have it all figured out. Suffering is optional. I just need to adjust, my approach, or I need to stop believing the story that I'm making up about the guy kicking me out. I get to my freshman year in college. There was actually it took me a while to get over it, tough moment for me. We lost in the Big 12 tournament. We're all sitting in a huddle. Coach comes in, he says, tough season guys. You all did really, really well. We really battled this last game. And he goes one by one, everybody were like in a circle around him and says, Billy, you did this well, and this is what I want you to improve on next year. And as he's going, he skips over me, and I think he's saving it for the end to say like something really big and exciting about my improvement or how good of a teammate I was or whatnot. He actually ends up skipping me. And then he doesn't say anything. And as we come in to say, break it down, coach, one of the assistant coach goes, "Oh, coach, you forgot to say something about Alex." And immediately my face gets red. I'm so embarrassed. I'm creating a story about how much he doesn't like me. He's always not liked me. Why did he even recruit me? Had this other big story I created. And then I remember actually, I think I walked out. I might even have cried out because it was so embarrassing because all the teammates were like, does he know he forgot to say something about Alex? And this was another moment where I thought, I'm suffering. And I went to the same mentor. And so I said, oh, he skipped me. He did this on purpose. It was his plan to get me to transfer and all these things. And he goes, Alex, your reality is he skipped you, but why are you suffering? I said, I'm suffering because I'm embarrassed. Everybody saw that he skipped me. He doesn't like me. Create up this big story and told him all what I'm suffering. Again, he goes, Alex, your reality is you got skipped. Why are you suffering? And what I learned again the hard way was my suffering wasn't caused because he skipped me. It was caused because I hadn't changed my idea of how feedback comes for over 15 years. I ended up getting the feedback, although I was last and skipped, same feedback he would have given. So if I was reality based and just stuck to the facts, I got my feedback, I was the last person. But what I did to make myself suffer, and it's something you fall into, but you can start catching yourself when you feel overwhelmed, is I was made up that story, and I hadn't ever adapted the way I viewed feedback. I thought everyone needs to get the same feedback. It needs to be nice and in order. That's just not true. That's just not how the world works. So I'm not advocating to, sneak into the gym, to be like this nuisance. I'm advocating for people to not just roll over and die at the first sign of adversity and come up with a story on why they're suffering. I'm advocating for you to use your resources, get creative on how you can still get your workouts in, how you can still succeed, how you can still find other ways to constantly get better each day. Maybe you're one of those players that's in that point where coach isn't playing me enough and I'm better than the person in front of me. Take a look at the reality, which is I'm not playing these minutes. Check the story, which is all you're making up about you're better than these people that are ahead of you. Your coach, is seeing you for a reason, and all these things that are making you really, really frustrated. Check that story, get to the facts, and then adapt your approach to what's going on. You're not playing. Maybe try aligning with the team's vision, following the game plan, encouraging teammates. Change your approach that you're not doing, and you might see your playing time start to go up and your enjoyment start to go up. So start separating out suffering from reality, and then ask, what could I do to help that reality? Maybe if it's even 3 things you could do, I guarantee you'll start to see differences and start to be a lot happier in your sport. I encourage you to take a few days and just think of the things that are causing you frustration, whether it's in a game or it's a whole long-term thing, maybe in the last month, and really look at, what are the facts of the situation and what is the story you're making up, or what are ways you haven't adapted to what's going on. And that might be why you're a little bit unhappy or frustrated or not getting the big results that you're looking for. So I truly do encourage you, because it's a huge transition for me to start to realize those things. So then now, today, I can really catch those things, sometimes not right away, to help me, succeed in what I'm doing now. I hope those two examples were great illustrations of how using this philosophy can help you succeed anyway. I hope you can take some of the lessons that I'm sharing with you and where I messed it up and put it towards where you're at with your career, and not waste the time that I did going through it. That's kind of the whole goal of the reality-based philosophy. Let me know what you think. Give it a like if you liked it. Share it with people that you think might be struggling. Maybe help them change their perspective on some things going on. Leave some comments below. I'd love to talk about if any of this stuff's helping you, where you might see this not working or working, and let's talk about it. Feel free to grab the lock screen below, keep it on your phone so you're thinking about it daily, these rules and these tips from the reality-based philosophy. Read the Medium blog if you like to learn through reading instead of video. Keep following along, subscribe if you haven't yet. These videos are going to keep coming bi-weekly. We're going to keep addressing different challenges out there in our athletic worlds. Again, keep fighting the good fight. Happy playing days. We'll see you next time.
So just because it's been said before doesn't mean that you don't need to hear it. And just because I'm not the first to follow doesn't mean that I can't feel it.